Whew. Okay. Hello, everybody. It is Friday, February 23rd. One of my favorite numbers, 23. Welcome to Saved Watch Later. My name is Chase. I'm recovering from a little bit of a cold here, so excuse me for sounding a little gross. If I do, I might not. I'm trying to get this done. I gotta go pick up my dog. Okay, I gotta pick up my dog from daycare, and I love her, and I have to pick her up in like 45 minutes. So we're going to try to keep this somewhat brief. But I hope everyone's been having a good time. I hope everyone's been having a good February. Let's just do a little intro first. Let's talk about what I've been watching. Let's talk about what we've been watching. Oh, just kidding. No, I'll say went on vacation. Not really a vacation, just kind of a trip, and had a really good time. And it's always... I always love traveling. You learn so much. There's so much to talk about. I've been watching The Traitor Season 2 before I've heard about this online zeitgeist president it has, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of myself for being a little bit ahead of the curve there. Not that that matters, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun when you're like, oh, everyone loves that. I love that because I was in the beginnings, I was watching from day one, and I love that. Feud Season 2, Truman Capote versus the Swans. If there's one thing I like that Ryan Murphy did, it's Feud Season 1. And Feud Season 2 is pretty great. I haven't watched the most recent episode, so I have to catch up on that. But it's pretty great. I like it a lot. It's just a fun concept, and it's good. Really good acting, good writing. John Robin Bates, I think his name is. He wrote a play called Other Desert Cities that I am notorious for doing a monologue from that show. It's I love that play. It's such a good play. If you're looking to read a play that's like about kind of like a bitchy family who has like shit going on, and they're like living in this like lap of luxury sort of life in Palm Springs, and like everything goes to shit. Those are my favorite kinds of plays, everybody. And then I also finally started Righteous Gemstones, which my friend Arabella, my friend Lena have been on my booty to watch as someone who went to Catholic school K through 12 and has a lot of feelings about mega churches and religion as a concept. It's a fun show. Really liking that show. Sorry for the sniffles, you guys. I know it's gross. I maybe underestimated the cold. Oh, what else? Oh, Fantastic Four casting came out when I was out of town. I hope they nail it. I hope everyone does a good job. I hope it's a good script, and I hope it looks good. The cast doesn't really do much for me. I don't like crossing IPs a whole bunch. I don't like that Pedro Pascal is Star Wars, Marvel, and Last of Us, and it's just a little bit much for me. And Joseph Quinn, Eddie didn't rock my world the way he rocked other people's worlds. So whatever, we'll see. I hope everyone does good. I think I'm just a little bit tired of the casting in terms of like stunt casting. Let's just hire people who fit a role well and would serve the project, not just cast people who's going to make money and bring the audience in. I think it's a big ask though for a major studio project. Okay. Look at that. 3 minutes in and we're already to the meat and potatoes, you guys. It's pretty good. I have debated doing this podcast, this episode, and I think I need to do it. I wrote like an outline of what I want to talk about, and writing it made me feel better, and to the point where I was like, well, maybe I kind of wrote an outline, and that kind of was like a diary entry enough to kind of get things off my chest. But then I was like, maybe there's a little bit more in terms of like, if I spoke it and made a little pod episode about it, maybe that would really just sort of clean the side of the ship. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is my last sort of like Star Wars specific episode. Obviously, I will continue to like talk about shows and movies I'm watching, like The Bad Batch premiered and pretty good start. I don't really love that show, but awesome. I liked the vibes. It was exciting. It was cool. It was comforting. But yeah, I'll still talk about Star Wars, but no more like Star Wars specific content. But I feel like I needed just one more Star Wars piece of content that is in totality just about Star Wars, because it does feel weird to go from doing all Star Wars content to just not. And I want to do one episode to end them all. You know what I mean? Partly because I think it will give me some sort of closure. And I think it will just give me permission to sort of really leave that chapter of my life behind. And that chapter meaning Star Wars as an outlet for my creative expression. Like really leaving that behind. I think I need to do this. I think I need to do one more, wipe the slate clean, put everything out there. Risk getting taken off Lucasfilm's publicity list. That's fine. That is fine. Because again, that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're here for. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit indulgent. Naturally, I think this podcast is a little bit indulgent because it's a journal podcast. It's a diary podcast. But yeah, I think you'll see. I'm going to go over the timeline of my time creating Star Wars online. And the biggest reason for that is because I think that context and that retrospective serves to give me context to process what I've gone through, but also for the odd chance that there's people out there that actually like keep up with things I post. I want them to know, because I feel bad that I just sort of like jumped ship and switch directions, even though I shouldn't feel bad. So I hope this gives like context. And also like my best friends still like love Star Wars and make content for Star Wars. And like everything I share does not have any reflection on anyone else. This is all very personal. And also another reason why I want to do this was because there was, after a hard time online when I announced doing a panel about Star Wars and drag, before it was like such a hot button issue in American, culture wars. Before it was that, I kind of just, anyways, whatever. After like a hard time online, I made like a vlog series sort of exploring what it was like, kind of recovering from that, rebuilding from that, writing the panel, putting on the panel, how it was received and how I felt afterwards. And I started editing it, and then I just decided to stop. I was like, I don't want to put this out there because it felt so, it didn't feel exciting. I'll just say that. I don't really know how else to say that. But the point is this is my version of that, right? This is my version of telling my story. And sort of like, yeah. Okay. So let me get a sip of water, and the water is very far away. And I'm back. All right, divas. This all started, like most personal projects did, in 2020. I rediscovered my love for Star Wars. Some would say hyperfixation. They wouldn't be wrong. It was definitely 2020 and 2021. Those were the years of hyperfixation, my man. That was when we were getting hyperfixated and disassociating. So more power to us. But anyway, I got back into Star Wars, and I started getting engaged in fandom, which I never really was a big fandom person, except for maybe on Tumblr, which was a lot more innocent back in the day. It was more like fandom for like Harry Potter and random things that I liked a lot in high school and maybe a little bit of college. And middle school, I guess. Anyway, so as I got into Star Wars, back into Star Wars, and as I got into Star Wars fandom for the first time, I had never been a part of like Star Wars fandom online before, I noticed a resentment and maybe even hatred towards women, people of color, and the LGBTQ IA plus community. And basically having just sort of like left theater and getting into Star Wars and noticing that online, I was like, okay, I want to fucking make something that I love about Star Wars. I wanted to make something to honor all the other fans that made really cool things that I found really exciting. And I wanted more than anything to like create a community, a beacon and a community for marginalized fans or fans of any kind, but for marginalized fans to come hang out, have a good vibe, feel welcome, and feel celebrated. That was the goal. So I started That Gay Jedi in the spring of 2021. And soon after that, I joined one of my favorite queer podcasts and live streams that I would watch a lot, Pink Milk After Dark. So I probably joined too soon in terms of like, I think at some point people couldn't tell the difference between That Gay Jedi and Pink Milk because it was like, I joined so soon after starting my own thing, but I don't regret any of it. So it was great and it was really fun and it was awesome. And then it led into a really good year. Like Pink Milk got a panel at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim. Pink Milk got an invitation to Andor's premiere event, which I was able to go to with my friend Brian. And despite drama surrounding both the panel and the premiere event, Pink Milk was like cooking with gas. We were doing a good time. We were doing a good job. And then I was also doing good. I was doing a good job of sort of like continuing to individualize myself and continuing to whatever grow, and my panel. And then I submitted my panel for Star Wars Celebration London. And when I submitted the panel again, I had no idea. I submitted it like, I don't know, 4 to 6 months, if I remember correctly, before drag was like just brought into the spotlight of American culture wars. And if I knew that was going to happen, I probably would have pivoted the panel. I don't know if I would have done it. I would have been like, it's too much. It's too hot, hot button item. I don't really want to do that. I don't seek that. Okay. So contrary to people online thinking I like am trying to like do that, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to make stuff, and I'm also not trying to be like a hero or like a champion of my community. I'm trying to make my community proud, but I'm not trying to be this figure, right? But that it happened to be accepted at the time that drag was never. I mean, drag was like everyone's at the tip of everyone's lips, and so when I think back to like the lost vlog, going over all this, let's get into that. So basically, I announced the podcast was accepted. I'm excited about this. That night I go to bed and I find out that, some really alt-right leaning communities in fandoms of all kinds were like making content about this and making content about my panel and like dragging me through the mud and like just, I mean, you guys, people with crazy screen names and crazy like online careers dedicated to franchises making fun of my name, That Gay Jedi, and being like, imagine making your whole personality That Gay Jedi. I'm sorry, your name is Star Wars Girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's everyone does it. So it's kind of I mean, to point your finger at one person, hey, you point one finger at someone, you got 3 pointing back at you. Am I right? Isn't that what they say? So anyway, it was like, so part of it was like absurd. Part of it was just like, I was like, the fuck are these people talking about? But part of it was very scary in terms of I had never had that kind of negative attention before. And I just like, we live in the age of doxing and shit like that. And like, and people can find information. Like, I was just like, that is scary to me. Like, that was what was scary. I was scared as to what could happen in terms of like if some real radical person wanted to do something. That was a scary concept to me. And then it was also like, yeah, it's like reading, or not even reading, being forced to see so many awful things being said about you online is not fun. And I'm also one of those people that like, my friend and I always talk about celebrities, like Lady Gaga probably she has to get like, so many people talk about her every day. I talk about her every day, and it's like she has to feel that energetically, right? She has to. I mean, if millions of people are talking about you every day, like you're gonna feel that energy coming your way, I think. Anyways, so I'm like, also like all these people are fucking like talking shit, but then also all these people were being really, really helpful and really supportive and really kind and really like generous in their support of me and their defense of me. What I think everyone failed to realize is I didn't want any of the attention. I don't want the good attention. I don't want the bad attention. I just don't want that kind of attention. I did not want that. That was not something I was seeking. I just wanted to put on a panel and then celebrate the fact that it was accepted and then go to the panel and then go home. So that was that happened. Then I had a very precariously timed vacation. Shortly after that, I was going out of town on a family vacay. I went to Mexico, and it was very nice. It's a beautiful vacation, amazing. We loved it, and I wasn't online for that because I knew better. I was like, I should just log off. And things had kind of died down. But something that was really odd that I think is really important to talk about, and I hope to God people that don't like me are listening to this right now. I hope to God that a hater or two that were raking me across the coals and still put my name in their mouths, I hope you are watching this, because there is a humanization here that is so important to internalize. First part is, my intention is not to make Star Wars gay. It's not my intention. I think it already is pretty gay. And if you don't, that's cool. If I do, that's cool. I celebrate when there's queerness in it. If you don't, whatever, that's up to you. If I do, whatever, that's up to me. But the most important thing about the humanization of this is when I went on this vacation, I was like fucking freaked out. There was a weird like PTSD from the online harassment that carried into my actual life, which I did not anticipate at all. Like I would have never expected this, but at the resort we were at, there were a lot of like, I can't believe I'm about to say this, like conservative presenting people, like people that just looked like they had certain politics. And that's a judgment on my side. I wasn't judging them, but I was like, I'm assessing them, right? And what happened was I would assess them as conservative presenting. I hate that I'm saying this. I would assess them as that, and then my heart would race. I was so nervous that someone was just going to start fucking screaming at me. It was such a weird feeling because of the experience, because of the experience of like intense homophobia I had online. I was expecting to have that kind of homophobia thrown in my face while on vacation. Sad. Halfway through, I had to talk to my partner. I'm like, dude, I'm like waiting for someone to call me a slur and punch me. And he's like, well, that was just online. I'm like, I know, but I can't get it out of my head. I feel like that's going to happen in real life for some reason because it was just so intense. And there's, again, a PTSD with it. So don't fucking bully people online because there's real life implications and effects, consequences. Brutal. Worked through it. Was proud of myself for working through it. I came back into town. I was like, I have to start working on this fucking panel, which, by the way, I didn't want to do at this point. At this point, I was like, the fuck is happening? Like, I don't even want to do this. It's not even that important to me. It was fun and exciting until everyone took the fucking air out of it. And now I'm like, I don't want to do this. And everyone's like, oh no, you can't let them win. It's like, I know, but at the same time, like letting myself win by not doing something I don't want to do is the win. But I was like, okay, this is what I said. I said, I'm going to work with my friend. Shout out Rebecca. You know I love you. I'm like, I'm just going to work with my friend Rebecca. I'm going to see if we have something here. I'm going to see if this fucking panel is even good because I don't even know if it's going to be good. And we started outlining it and it was good. To me, it was good. I know it's not everyone thinks it was good. Trust me, I know. And I don't really care because it happened and I'm proud of it. And based off of the reception I had in real life, it was good. So anyway, we ride it, and then it was good. And then we went to London, and then it was scary because then it was like, oh God, there was like people tweeting out, person tweeting out vague threats, which was really bad. You know, just threats about the event. Not about my panel necessarily, but when you're the only fucking gay panel at a celebration and, you know, people are talking about wanting to hurt gay people, then it's a little scary. Feels targeted. I'm going to go ahead and say it feels targeted. So that was scary. And I think that's important to bring up. I don't really have anything else to say about that. Do the panel. It's great. It's over. I'm fucking stoked. I'm so happy. And then it's over. I guess that was sort of the journey. I mean, there's so much more in that vlog thing I did, but if I don't remember it, how relevant can it be? I just think it's important to know that, like, I don't know, just speaking truth to that. That's what I'm saying. I think that's all I have to say about it. I hope it speaks for itself. I come home from London, great time. And then it's like kind of like late spring, early summer of 2023. My personal life kind of falls apart. Not totally sure if it's related to like the intensity of my time online and my investment in hyper focus in creating online brand and personality. But my life kind of falls apart. And then as I'm like, you know, picking up the pieces, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna keep making things, but I'm gonna experiment with what kind of things. So I started doing like car content. That was really fun. And it's so funny. So like you can see, it's like it's such an intense time that I had no choice but to be like broken down. And this isn't just online. Again, this is like other stuff in my life going on too, relationship stuff, like friend stuff. But it's so funny because, you know, like, let's talk about Omega for a second from the Bad Batch. I'm like waiting for her to be radicalized. I would love for her to just get, I mean, I don't know how much longer I'm going to buy this like shtick of her being like, Nari, we love everyone. I'm like, we don't, you know what I mean? Like, I love that. And I love that, like, that's your whole thing. Cause you're like a little kid or whatever. But at what point is like you being locked up and tested on every day of your life going to radicalize you? I don't know. But talking about me, it's funny because it's like, I almost was like de-radicalized by the intensity of being in fandom. And I mean, like, I've talked about it a little bit in terms of like social media and like when everyone agrees that something's wrong, then everyone agrees that it's wrong. And if you don't agree that it's wrong, then you're going to get canceled. And on the other side, they're like, fuck you guys, you're awful, you're ruining this. And it's like, if you don't think that, then you're woke. And it's like so intense. Whoa. So it's almost like I went from that space to logging off and rebuilding my life and like de-radicalized. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2024, the new radicalization is de-radicalization. Maybe I'm onto something. Maybe I'm an idiot. But basically after all this, I kind of looked back and I could see and I'm still figuring it out. And that's again why I'm kind of making this last fucking episode, again, dedicated exclusively to Star Wars. But it's like, I'm still processing it. And I can look back now and I can see how much I was over identifying with a brand and a franchise. And that is okay to do, of course. And it's also okay to be a huge fan of something and have it take up a lot of your life. I would say that it's important to have other things going on in your life so that it's not exclusively your life. Did I say that right? I would say it's yes. So it's like, it's okay if it's like a big part of your life and a big part of your personality and you love it and you're a fan and you love that. But for me, it was taking up a disproportionate amount of my life, and not just Star Wars, but creating content for Star Wars and Star Wars. Like, it was just that sandwich effect. It stacked up way too high in terms of like other stacks of my life. So that was something I was realizing, and I got lost in the sauce for sure. And I also realized how much of my time and energy I was investing into an online doppelganger version of myself. And I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I just don't. And I don't do it anymore, I should say. So that was like the journey. It's about the journey. That was my journey. And I guess I had to say that for me. I hope it was interesting. I hope it provokes thoughts and conversations amongst everyone else. I want to get into fandom as a whole and then talk about my honest opinions about the franchise and the company. Franchise of Star Wars, company of Lucasfilm and Disney. And again, I don't know anything. None of this really matters. I'm kind of just doing this because I think it's mildly entertaining. I'm continuing to process and yeah, okay. Let's just do this. One thing about fandom. Fandom's cool. If fandom works for you and your mental health, that is a cool thing. Fandom is an awesome thing. I think everybody in fandom, no matter what fandom they belong in or what political coloring of fandom you're in, I think everyone has their individual responsibility to go outside and to log off every once in a while, every day if you can. I think everyone has a responsibility to do that. If you are to engage in fandom, you are to take on the responsibility of maintaining a life offline, touching grass. And I don't mean maintaining a life as in like get a life, as in like have friends and go out. I mean like literally touching grass. Like if you're part of fandom, I think that you have to have an internal relationship with yourself on an internal level that promotes logging off and just breathing fresh air and realizing your place in a fandom space and realizing fandom space in a greater, larger society and world. Fandom is great. It is not everything. I think everyone has an individual responsibility to go outside and log off. If you are giving anyone too much time or attention online, that is weird, especially if you don't know them. There is at least a person or two who make it their prerogative to track me and monitor what I am saying. That's fucking gross. It's weird and it's embarrassing for you. So don't do that. Something that was really hard for me to deal with after I like rebranded away from That Gay Jedi and started making content that was not exclusively about Star Wars is I had the people that were like bullying me about it and were being really bad, mean words, being meanies about it, being assholes. Those people made content celebrating the fact that I'm like stepping away from Star Wars and just, it's so crazy. One, because most importantly, the win goes to me. The W goes to me. It was a choice I made, and it is a choice reflected of me choosing to have a life outside of a brand. And the person that is a shill for Star Wars in a negative way and wants to tear it apart and celebrates when queer people step away from Star Wars, that's the L for you, brother. That is an L for you, okay? The W goes to me. Respectfully, don't like you didn't win some battle because I decided to rebrand. You're losing the battle because you were lost in the sauce, my brother. That is what that is. You can tell I've been watching too much Righteous Gemstones because I keep saying my brother in Christ. Oh, I had this hat on I was going to wear today. It says God's favorite. Anyway, nobody won the battle by me stepping away from Star Wars. The people who hate gay people, the homophobes in the Star Wars fandom didn't win by me stepping away. It's ridiculous. That is so dumb. Second thing is I can't help but feeling bad. Sometimes I feel like I did disappoint. It's so funny because like that's not true, but for some reason I do feel like I disappointed people. And that is a hard thing to contend with. I think that obviously like I didn't do anything wrong by stepping away from Star Wars, but I do think that some people, not a lot of people, but some people did look at me and Pink Milk as like sort of like people who were carrying the flag alongside other queer creators, but we were, fighting the good fight. And I feel like I let some people down for deciding not to fight that fight. I mean, I fight that fight in my everyday life. I fight that fight in different ways, but I don't do it in online fandom. And I feel like I flopped for some people. And I'm not sorry about that, but I do feel bad about that, especially when like you're at like Star Wars Celebration and people like watch your panel and they come up to you and like they tell you like how much it means to them, and that's so nice, and like it can mean a lot to them, and that's it. But then it's also hard not to like internalize that and be like, okay, well, I don't do it anymore, and I'm sorry, So that's that. But again, it's like I shouldn't feel that way, because I mean that's the way that if I feel too much like that, that's kind of an unhealthy signifier of how I viewed fandom, which was fandom isn't real life. I'm sorry. There's a lot of real elements to it. You make a lot of great friends from it. You can make a lot of effective change from it. You can celebrate a lot of real love for a project with it, but it still is an online space, and it shouldn't take up too much of your physical real life space. Okay, now we get to talk about the fucking tea, bitch. We get to talk about the franchise. I think, and listen, nobody cares about my opinions, and I don't have any inside information, and also people are gonna fucking hate me for saying this anyway, but like, what's so funny and ironic is people who like think I like shell out for Star Wars. I am like Star Wars' #1 hater, bro. I fucking talk shit on Star Wars all the time, and I also love it and celebrate it. That's a concept. That's a concept that you cannot find in fandom. Well, you can, but it's rare. So what do I think about the franchise? Nobody asked. Let me answer your question. I think the IP struggles with its identity. I think it struggles with its fan base. I don't think it knows really who it is or who it wants to make content for. Second part to that, I think that the fact that it's making content is a detriment to itself. I think George Lucas never believed in making content. I think George Lucas was telling stories, and they were really good. And even when people fucking hated it, he doubled down because that was his art. It was what he was making. I don't think it's Lucasfilm's fault. I do think it's Disney's fault. I think Disney is like, we need content. We need content. We need content. We need fucking watch hours on Disney Plus. And we need subscribers. You know what I mean? So that's fucked. And I feel bad for Lucasfilm as a company. I cannot imagine what it's like to have the overbearing parental figure that is Mickey Mouse. I do think, though, an issue that I have with Star Wars right now is I think it's very into itself. It's very self-focused and self-involved. I think there's a lot of ego in it. Like, we get it. The quote when George Lucas is like, it's like poetry, it rhymes. Not everything has to fucking refer to, not everything in Star Wars has to refer to other things in Star Wars. Do you know what I mean? I get that that's like, in some ways, integral to the brand, but it's become like, it's like a joke at this point. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, the fuck? Like, what are we talking about here? We don't have to, like, it doesn't have to be so self-insulated and self-involved and self-affirming. It's so crazy. I think that the franchise fails to take risks across the board. There are exceptions, but for the most part, fails to take risk. And in that failure to take risks, I think you lose a lot of originality that was very much there when George Lucas was in charge. And I don't even want to say, I fucking hate that. I hate that I'm saying that, because I also hate the idolization of figures in charge like George Lucas, like Dave Filoni. I don't like that. That doesn't make sense. I think it makes for bad art to fucking idolize someone and make someone like God. It doesn't make sense. But I think that by not taking risks, they are losing the originality and the sort of like the originality and sort of almost like creative authenticity that they had in their earlier stages, not with George, but in their earlier stages of a company, in the time when they weren't, having to answer to a corporate overlord that's demanding that they put out content while they're chained in the basement. It's like, fucking make content, make a TV show, make a TV show. It's like, how can anyone work like that? It's kind of like what I said at the top of the show with stunt casting. It's like, how can anyone take the time to conceptualize a project, to work on a project, to bring in all these factors that go into a production that require, you know, nameless actors that fit the role better, that require new ideas and taking risks and pushing the envelope. Like, how could a company do that when it's owned by that overlord, right? And so I miss that from Star Wars, but I don't think it was George Lucas that was providing that. I think it was the fact that they were an independent company. They did whatever they wanted. They took time with projects because they didn't have to hit a content count. So like I said, I hate the idolizing of him, of George Lucas. I don't like the romanticizing of, oh, well, and I'm not saying anyone does this, but I love Lucasfilm. But I would never romanticize it in terms of like, it's not what it used to be. It can't be what it used to be in terms of like a scrappy, anti-establishment sort of tour de force fighting big Hollywood. It is big Hollywood now. So it's like, you gotta own what you are. You know what I mean? You are owned by Disney. You're owned, and you gotta find a way to make that work. And I cannot imagine how hard that is. And dude, oh, that's gnarly. I think there's a great need for outside voices. I think there's a great need for people like Tony Gilroy, who literally don't even like Star Wars. They are not fans of Star Wars, making Star Wars content. And guess what? I know this is such an opinion, so subjective, but like, Andor is the fucking best shit they've done. Like, it's incredible. And that is made by someone, a huge team of people, by the way, which also, again, a high collaborative environments with POVs from across the board, it will yield the best result every single time. And even if you miss it, but there's still an authenticity and a layeredness to the fabric of the piece because it was a highly collaborative environment with people from all over the place. And with different POVs, people, again, like Tony Gilroy, who don't like Star Wars. But if we keep hiring the same people, or we keep hiring people who like just love Star Wars so much and have such a deep respect for it, and they just like play with their toys in the backyard all the time, and now they get to play with their action figures in real life, like, oh, that shit gets stale, bro. That gets stale. So that's my thoughts. I love Star Wars. I think it's fucking awesome. I think that it has some of the most amazing characters, amazing storylines out of any other franchise. And I want it to succeed. And I don't give a shit if it succeeds under Disney. I love the idea of it succeeding under Disney. I just hope that everyone can find a way to do it that really honors, you know, a creative process, I'll say. Again, I don't know anything. Everyone I've ever met at Lucasfilm, I genuinely love so much. Like, really cool people, really nice people, really grounded people, really normal people, very loving and generous people who love their job. And I love that. Yeah. So those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on Star Wars. I kind of feel a little giddy because, like, we're done. I feel like really good. Oh, I love that. Okay. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to leave a comment, I'd appreciate it. If you're listening, I have an email, but I don't know what it is. But it also, hey, if we want to help the numbers, share this on social media or send it to a friend. That would really help. I really appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you guys bearing witness to this, like, last part of deep processing that needs to happen before I truly let myself go and move on creatively. And I look forward to doing that. I look forward to, again, also talking about Star Wars projects in the future if they move me to talk about it, instead of just doing it by default. If I feel moved to talk about it, if I have something to say, if I want to talk about something, I will. But I feel very freed up, and I appreciate you guys bearing witness to it. I literally love you, and I hope you guys have great days. I'll try to come back next week. There's a couple things I want to talk about. As always, I never stop talking. And Illy, bye.